Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. What are you doing here? How did you get in? Swash shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. I waited outside until someone else opened the main door. How did you even know where I live? Nathan told me. He found out through Emmett. I stand by what I said, Swash. You need to leave. Michael, you have no idea how worried I was. As you can see, I'm fine. I'm trying to move forward with my life. I think you should too. I started walking away, clutching the bag of clothes in my hand. But then he grabbed my hand, stopping me. Bradley misses you. He kept waiting for you every weekend. I told him that was the only time you might come. It's been 3 weeks, Mike. You can't just keep disappearing like this. It's breaking his heart. He'll be okay. It's better I stay away than keep coming back when I don't plan to stay. I've got a job now. I'm trying to rebuild my life. I motioned between us. This isn't helping either of us. It's best we let go. Swash finally let go of my hand. I gave him a small, grateful smile and walked past him toward the exit. He was still standing in front of my apartment building, unmoving. I didn't stop. I headed to the laundromat. I checked my pockets for coins. My clothes were already sorted by color, so I figured I'd be done in a few hours. The machines weren't usually crowded around this time. Maybe afterward, I could drop by Jeff's. I wasn't sure if he worked Sundays. His research schedule was unpredictable, but he'd become a big part of my life lately. After the assault, I stayed at his place for a week. Somehow, we connected quickly, on a level deeper than romance. It felt like he was a part of me, like we were reflections of each other. And I cared about him as naturally as I cared about myself. Jason had also been an amazing friend through it all. Together, they helped pull me out of a dark place. The nightmares still lingered, but I was finally able to go back to my apartment. I was healing, slowly but surely. I returned home at 3:17 p.m. Swash's car was still outside. I frowned and walked up the stairs. He was sitting against my door, his head resting on his folded arms. Swash. He looked up at me, his face tired. I couldn't believe he'd stayed. You should have gone home. Bradley needs you. He's with Rita. I couldn't stand watching him feel let down again. I had to try, Michael. You're the only one who can make him smile the way he used to. Please, do it for him. Swash, I'll even pay you if that's what it takes. That stung. I stared at him, surprised and disappointed. You think I'd come back just for money? I need to get inside. He stood up and I unlocked the door. As I pushed it open, it didn't budge all the way. He had placed his foot in the gap. He winced slightly but didn't move. I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't mean it like that. I don't know what else to say or do. I don't know how to convince you. It's like you've changed so much. Like you don't even care anymore. I looked into his eyes. They were filled with worry and sadness. I didn't mean to be cold. I just couldn't afford to lose focus while rebuilding my life. It's not that I don't care, Swash. I do. I miss him too. But Bradley needs stability. And right now, I'm not that. I'm still figuring myself out. I don't want to cause more harm by being inconsistent. Leaving him was hard, but I thought it was the best thing for him. And you think leaving him confused and heartbroken is better? What if he never learns to trust again? You were his best friend. He even named his fish after you, Michael. I'm not asking you to fix everything or be some perfect role model. Just be there. He needs you. You promised you'd always be his friend, remember? I sighed. He was right. I had made that promise. Maybe I hadn't said it like an official vow, but I meant it. Staying away wasn't exactly the most loyal thing a friend could do. Bradley had seen me as his constant. And here I was, thinking he needed stability, when I was the one who had disrupted it. Fine, I said quietly. Let me put these clothes down and freshen up. Thank you, he whispered, visibly relieved. I dropped the laundry bag and headed to the bathroom to fix my hair. Swash stepped just inside the apartment but didn't go further. I didn't care. The apartment was just a space now. One day I'd move out and someone else would find safety in it. We left together and drove to his condo. The building brought back memories, some good, some difficult. I stepped inside and settled onto the couch. It was quiet. "Where's Brad?" I asked. "He's still at Rita's. I'm going to pick him up. Feel free to make yourself comfortable. There's food in the fridge. Remote's on the..." I got it, Swash. He paused, looked at me for a moment, then left. I turned on the TV. As always, it was on National Geographic. The show was about morpho butterflies, beautiful, shimmering creatures with blue and green wings. The narrator explained something about protein structures and UV light signals, but I wasn't really paying attention. I heard the door and knew they were back. My heart raced. What would Bradley think? Would he still be happy to see me? Would he care at all? The thought of him not wanting me anymore did hurt. Maybe this was how I'd made him feel. Abandoned. Rejected. Michael. Before I could fully turn around, I felt two small arms wrap around my neck. Bradley's light brown hair had grown a bit, curling softly near his ears. I hugged him tightly. The tears I'd been holding in spilled over. He had missed me deeply. And even after I hurt him, he still wanted me around. Just as I was. "You came," he whispered. "Yeah, I did," I said softly. He looked at me with his bright, gray eyes. And in that moment, I felt truly seen. Truly loved. Bradley didn't care about the mistakes, the trauma, or the labels. To him I was just, "Michael, I missed you." Michael missed you too. "Really?" "He doesn't swim much anymore," Bradley said with a little frown, tugging my hand to show me the fishbowl. The fish looked sluggish. Bits of uneaten food sat at the bottom. Green algae had started forming. Swash. "Yeah. You need to get a tank for Michael. With proper aeration and a water filter." "Seriously? There's not enough oxygen in the bowl. That's why he's moving so slowly. Fish breathe underwater, but they still need oxygen to survive." Bradley smiled, grateful I was helping. He dragged me back to the couch and launched into a full recap of everything I'd missed. He told me about winning a Junior Writers Award, new friends like Tracy, Emily, and a kid named Skylar, and his growing obsession with Legos. He wanted to return to the shed aquarium because we hadn't explored it all last time. I just listened and smiled. I glanced over at Swash, who now sat on a beanbag, watching us with quiet gratitude. He looked exhausted but proud. I never realized how much I meant to this little boy until now. Swash finally asked, "So, what have you been up to, Michael?" I was caught off guard by the question. Bradley genuinely wanted to know what I'd been up to, and I told him as best as I could. I shared that the man I once cared about, the one Bradley understood as the person I had liked, turned out to be a dangerous person. Thanks to my friends, he was finally behind bars. I told him I had discovered I had a twin brother named Jeff, who had revealed the truth about my past. Jeff was in a relationship with one of my good friends, Jason. I told him that Emmett and Alex were planning to get married next spring, and that our friend Dorian had invited us all to New York for the celebration. I had a new job too. I was working at a diner where they'd even named a meal combo after me. As I shared all of this, I realized I was telling these stories for both Bradley and Swash. I wanted them to know I hadn't been ignoring them without reason. I apologized, especially to Bradley, for staying away. I told him I thought I was doing the right thing by not being around. He hugged me tightly. "It's okay, Michael. I'm not mad at you." "Really? Thank you. We all make mistakes. Just like that time I accidentally dropped your toothbrush in the toilet and you didn't get mad at me." I laughed. I couldn't believe he remembered that. Maybe, without realizing it, I had taught him about forgiveness, just by showing it when it mattered. He leaned in and kissed my forehead before giving me the warmest smile. "I love this kid. I'll make it up to you. I promise. I want you to visit every Saturday." "I will," I nodded. "You have my word." That was all he needed. He got off the couch and went to the bathroom. Swash watched him disappear down the hallway and then looked at me. "Thank you. I understand now. I'm sorry I was so distant before. I thought I needed time to figure things out, But I see now that I can work on myself and still be there for Bradley. I want to do both. Swash gave me a grateful smile. Thank you again, for everything. And for helping my career. I raised a brow. Your career? His face lit up. I got promoted to head of advertising. What? Really? How? You remember how I was put on probation? The higher-ups wanted to see how the campaign changes I pushed would perform. One of the ads I championed involved a bride panicking over her wedding meal. It wasn't our brand. Then she woke up, realizing it was a dream. The tagline was, "You won't even dream of anything else." Dramatic, right? But it worked. Our quarterly sales jumped 47%. They were so impressed with my creativity and the risks I took. I was promoted on Friday. I move into my new office tomorrow, with perks and a pay raise. And I owe a lot of that to you, and a certain YouTube video. I smiled, remembering that ad on a park bench outside Bradley's school. It all made sense now. I felt proud. Sure, he took the initiative, but it felt good to have played a part in his success. Now, he continued, I want to offer you a job. A job? Be Bradley's babysitter. Name your price. You'd earn while spending more time with him. It's a win-win. Swash, I don't know. Just think about it, okay? But I had already thought about it. Even though I promised to visit more, becoming a full-time babysitter didn't feel right. I was rebuilding my life, and I needed to be the one steering it, not handing that control over to Swash, no matter how well-intentioned the offer. Bradley came back a few minutes later and we ended up playing video games together. Swash had bought a bunch to cheer him up. Soon we were both laughing, racing each other on Mario Kart like nothing had changed. It was fun, genuinely fun. For a little while, everything felt light again. By evening, I stood up to leave. But Swash gently held my hand. Stay for dinner, please. I sighed. All right. It felt like old times. Swash cooked something experimental, a lightly spiced Indian dish. It smelled questionable, but it tasted amazing. Bradley wolfed down his meal, eager to get back to playing games. I just tried to enjoy the moment. It had been a while since I had a meal like that. After dinner, we played a bit more until Bradley got tired. He had school in the morning. They had repaired the fire-damaged building impressively fast, though the school was still dealing with legal issues from the incident. Bradley hugged me goodnight and I got ready to leave. Swash followed me to the door. See you next week, I guess? Wait. He moved in front of the door, placing his hands on either side of the frame, gently blocking the exit. I raised my eyebrows. Please don't go. Not until you tell me your decision. About babysitting? I shook my head. I'm sorry, Swash. I have to say no. I'm finally gaining some control over my life, and I can't give that up, not even for you. I'm not trying to take anything from you. You just be helping out with Brad when I'm at work. That's all. I can't be your housekeeper, Swash. No matter the pay. I have my own goals now. His arms dropped. I thought he would step aside, but his voice stopped me again. I don't know what else to do. You could hire someone else to... No, not that. I mean, it's about us. What do you mean? It's so hard trying to get back on your good side. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I deserve all of it. It's my fault your parents died. Swash, not this again. I've told you. I couldn't sleep after I found out. For 2 days I was just awake. Then I started taking sleeping pills. And when you came back, when you forgave me, it changed everything. I don't understand. I felt something that day, Michael. And I think you did too. When you asked me for help after everything, I felt hopeful. Because you trusted me again. But I couldn't forgive myself, so I tried to compensate by buying you things you didn't even ask for. I thought I had taken your whole life away. Your future. I blamed myself. Swash. I'm not done. He looked down, then back at me. And then Bradley came along. I saw how you treated him, so honestly, so gently. You never lied to him. And he loved you for it. And I started to love you more too. But it was hard. You were with someone else, and I couldn't stop how I felt. When Rita suggested that drinking game, I drank more than I should have. Not to celebrate, just to forget. To forget how much it hurt not being the one you wanted. I stood in stunned silence. Swash had been holding all of this in, emotions I never knew he carried. Only when Rita hinted that he might have feelings for me did I even consider the possibility. But at the time, I was consumed by Malone and his manipulations. I had felt something for Swash too, but I believed it had faded. Now I wasn't so sure. And then the night we thought we lost Bradley, he continued. The way you handled it, it was brave, honest, and it was you. That's what makes you so special, Michael. You're real. No pretenses. No sugarcoating. Just truth. That's what made me fall even harder. I know I'm not great at showing it. I probably even pushed you away. But after these last 3 weeks, watching you walk out the door, I realized something. He looked straight at me, eyes full of conviction. You're worth it, Mike. Even if you don't believe it, I do. I stared at him, shaken. His words echoed in my head. You're worth it. But all I could think was, you're not. You never were. You were broken. Damaged. You were someone who once had to survive in the darkest ways possible. How could someone like Swash love someone like that? He deserved someone better. Someone whole. Then he said it. I love you, Michael. I just want to know if you love me too. There was. The 3 words. I had heard them before, too many times. And yet, hearing them now from him, it made things so much more complicated. I stared blankly at the computer screen, just another day filled with back-to-back meetings and long documents. It wasn't the most thrilling job in the world, but it had its perks. One of them being my boss. He'd been sneaking glances at me all day, thinking I hadn't noticed. I had. And I wasn't exactly complaining. Working late tonight didn't feel like a chore. Especially knowing he was, too. Brittany, the secretary from the other department, walked by my desk with a cup of coffee. Hutch, they've really got you working overtime, huh? Yibby. You could say that. We shared a tired smile. There was an unspoken camaraderie between us. We both understood the demands of our high-powered bosses. Though if we're being honest, mine was something else entirely. I saw him coming down the hallway, walking straight from the accounts department. He could have easily sent me, but he always chose to handle the little things himself. That's what I liked about him. He was thoughtful, grounded, attractive, tall, auburn hair, strong build. He reminded me of someone from my past, someone I'd chosen to walk away from a long time ago. Swash. No regrets though. That decision led me to where I am now. Hutch, can I see you in my office for a moment? Of course, sir. I followed him in, my heart picking up speed. I had a pretty good idea what this was about. The way he looked at me, the subtle tension that had built up over weeks, it wasn't just in my head. I was used to people expecting things from me, assuming things. But this was different. Once inside, I closed the door behind me. He turned to me from his chair, spinning slowly with a thoughtful look. Would you mind locking that? I nodded, quietly turning the lock. The air shifted. I stood in front of him, feeling the weight of his gaze. Hutch, he said, how long have you been working here? For years, sir. Almost 5. And you enjoy the work? I do. It's steady, sometimes a bit dull, but I like the team. He smiled faintly. Would you like to make things more interesting? I raised an eyebrow but stayed quiet. The meaning behind his words hung between us. He stood, slowly walking over. His eyes didn't leave mine. He gently placed a hand on my chest. You okay? I'm fine, sir. Why do you ask? You're warm. Like you're burning up. I didn't get the chance to reply before he leaned in, kissing me. My breath caught. The kiss was firm, unhesitating, full of everything we hadn't said aloud. I melted into it, bracing myself against him. His hands gripped my back and I could feel the tension between us erupting. My fingers found the knot of his tie, slowly loosening it as the moment deepened. It was electric. Every touch, every breath shared in that quiet office felt like a confession. But then it happened. Swash, I breathed out, barely above a whisper. He froze. Pulled back. He'd heard it. A teasing smile crossed his face, masking a flicker of something else. Thinking about someone else while I'm right here? I looked away, flustered. I'm sorry. It just slipped out. He laughed, brushing it off with a light-hearted shake of his head. Just don't make a habit of it. He gently guided me to the couch near the window and sat beside me. The city lights outside glimmered behind us, but all I could focus on was him. His presence, his voice, the energy humming between us. We sat like that for a moment. Silent. Close. I don't know what this is, I admitted, finally breaking the quiet, but it feels like something. It does, he agreed softly. But only if it's real. I nodded. It is. At least, I want it to be. He reached for my hand and held it gently, giving it a reassuring squeeze. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen. Not for what people thought I was, but for who I really could be. I was a little surprised. I had expected him to take the lead, but instead, he smiled at me mischievously and gently pulled me toward him. The chemistry between us had been simmering for so long, it was almost surreal to finally have this moment. He leaned in and kissed me again, slower this time, letting it build, like he was savoring every second. His fingers interlaced with mine as we moved in sync, caught between laughter and heat, between impulse and something that felt far more personal than either of us had expected. Part of me couldn't believe where we were. His office. After hours. It was risky, spontaneous, and oddly it felt right. Still, I had to remind myself that Brittany's desk wasn't too far from here. I tried to stay quiet, but every time he brushed against me in just the right way, it got harder. He grinned, clearly amused at my struggle for composure. Then, right as things were reaching their peak, he stopped. Why? I whispered, half in disbelief. He just smirked at me. The man had a plan. He knew exactly what he was doing, teasing me, winding me up, enjoying the tension. Without a word, he lifted me off the couch, carried me across the room, and gently laid me down on his desk. I barely had time to react before he swept aside a pile of documents like a scene from a drama. I stared at him, caught between awe and amusement. Really? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Absolutely, he said with a devilish grin. The air in the room felt charged with everything unspoken between us. Desire, affection, a whole history of stolen glances and professional restraint unraveling in real time. Afterwards, we collapsed back onto the couch, tangled in a quiet embrace. His arms wrapped around me protectively, like he didn't want to let go. We lay like that for a while, our breathing slowing, our energy spent but our hearts full. He nuzzled into my neck and whispered, "You're the best person I ever hired." Really? I asked, a little surprised. I'm so glad you turned down that other offer. You have no idea how long I've been waiting to do this. I chuckled softly. You know, we just broke several workplace rules. I don't care. No regrets. In that case, I said, grinning, maybe now's a good time to talk about my raise? He looked at me mock offended. You're serious? I gave him a dramatic nod. Completely. And if you say no, I might have to mention to HR that you've been fraternizing. You couldn't prove anything. Oh, I think the evidence speaks for itself. He raised an eyebrow. I could fire you. You could. But I might not be the only person in this building you'd have to worry about. His expression shifted slightly, and for a second, I thought he was jealous. Then I burst out laughing. Kidding. You know I'd never do that to you. I love you way too much. You had me going there for a second, he admitted, exhaling in relief. I was just playing the role of the cheeky secretary. You were supposed to be the irresistibly charming and loyal secretary, he said. Same difference. We both laughed, and I turned to glance at the clock. It's almost 10 p.m. B's probably wondering what we're up to. Don't worry, he said, with a mischievous smile. I gave him a little something to help him sleep after dinner. I sat up slowly, eyeing him. You slipped our son a sleeping pill? Just an herbal one. We're married, not dead, he said, trying to sound innocent. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This might be your most ridiculous plan yet. I warned you, he said proudly. I got this couch just for us. Had to test it eventually. You're completely insane. But I love you. We kissed again, longer this time. There was no rush now. No tension to hide. Just two people who had waited long enough. He pulled back and looked at me with a smile. You said, our son, you know? I always do. He calls me, other dad, doesn't he? He nodded. Still, I love hearing you say it. He kissed me again and we stayed like that for a moment. Quiet, warm, content. It had taken years to get here, but it was worth every second. Eventually, Swash stood and helped me to my feet. We straightened our clothes, laughing softly, brushing off invisible wrinkles. He hugged me from behind, his chin grazing my shoulder with that familiar stubble I secretly adored. I loved when he let it grow out. We turned off the lights and left the office together, only to bump into Brittany on her way out. Good night, Titi. Night, Michael, she said wearily. You know we're both HG, right? I teased. It stands for Hutchglin? Whatever, Mike. I laughed. That's how it had always been. Even though we were married, people still just called me Michael or Mike in the office. Swash Glynn, got the cooler nickname. I didn't mind. Not really. It was funny to me that even though there were other Michaels in the building, I was the only one allowed to use the name. Everyone else had to go by their last names. A small, weird badge of honor, I guess. We made it to the car. Swash tossed me the keys. You're driving, he said, flopping into the passenger seat. I figured. We brought two cars, but yours has more fuel. Mine's staying here tonight. We buckled in, waved at the security guard, and headed home. We didn't say much on the way. We didn't need to. Sometimes the silence says everything. The condo was quiet when I unlocked the door and stepped inside first. I struggled a bit, trying to remove the key from the lock, and I noticed that Swash hadn't followed me in. When I turned around, he was standing in the doorway with his arms outstretched, blocking the frame. The stance was familiar, the same one he had taken 5 years ago during a moment that changed everything. Do you remember this? He asked. Yeah, I said with a laugh. I still think about that day sometimes. I didn't know what was going to happen between us. I honestly thought we were over. That day, it was the first time I told you I loved you. Do you remember what you said back? I grinned. Of course I do. It wasn't exactly poetic. He chuckled. You said something I'll never forget, then kissed me harder than anyone ever had. I was stunned. What was going on in your head? I smiled thoughtfully. That phrase, what you heard, was actually the beginning of the sentence, forget you, Michael. I was telling that doubting voice in my own head to get lost. Swash raised an eyebrow. Up until that day, I always had this voice in my mind telling me I wasn't good enough. For you, for happiness, for anything. But when you told me you loved me, I decided to stop listening. I figured, worthiness is a myth. People get amazing things all the time whether they deserve them or not. And somehow, despite all the messiness in my past, I had you. So, I chose to accept it. I chose you. Swash's smile softened. So, I'm the best thing that's ever happened to you? I smirked. You used to be the worst. But then Malone happened. He burst into laughter, and I couldn't help but smile wider. I reached up and kissed him gently, a kiss that promised this was where I belonged. With my husband. With our son. No voice in my head could tell me otherwise anymore. Remember what happened that night? He asked, his voice low. I nodded. Yeah. We truly became a couple. You were my first, he said quietly. With a guy, I mean. And it was amazing. And you're my last, I said, enjoying the wordplay. You can count on that. Oh really? What if something happened to me? Then I'd go celibate. Drastic measures, even. I'm sure Jeff could find a surgeon willing to help. I laughed as he shook his head. Let's avoid that, he said, laughing too. So, I guess I better stick around. You better, I said as we leaned into another kiss. I reached up, brushing his stubbled cheek, loving the texture of it beneath my fingers, before tangling my hand into his thick auburn hair. He deepened the kiss, and I melted into it. It was more than just romance. It was grounding. Natural. Like the sky being blue or leaves being green. Being near him just made me feel better, calmer. He pulled back and smiled. I love you, Michael Hutchglin. I grinned. And I love Brad Pitt. But don't worry, you're way hotter. He rolled his eyes. I'll take what I can get. Still laughing, we walked down the hall to check on Bradley. I peeked into his room and found him sprawled across the bed in a hilarious, lopsided pose that reminded me of how Swash often slept. I smiled at the resemblance. He was growing fast, nearly my height already, and not even 10 yet. Swash peeked in behind me. He's definitely taking after me. I nodded. In more ways than one. We closed the door quietly and headed to our bedroom. The room had changed a lot in the past 5 years. The bed was now king-sized, and the closet was nearly double what it used to be. Swash had moved his personal study into a shared space in the living room, making the bedroom feel more open and lived in. I sat on the bed and slowly unbuttoned my shirt, reflecting on all the changes that had happened, not just to the room, but to everyone in our lives. Jeff had married Jason 3 months ago. They were now the Samuel Fullers, and Jeff was part of a major medical research team focusing on long-term treatments for cystic fibrosis. Jason had transitioned into freelance financial consulting, taking on big-name clients. Dorian and Bates had become more elusive, since Bates had a tendency to hop countries yearly, but I knew the station still existed, even if in the shadows. Emmett and Alex had twins via surrogate, and Emmett had turned into the most devoted parent I'd ever seen. Nathan had transitioned into adult film acting. He said the pay was better and he was finally getting recognition doing what he enjoyed. Robert had risen to second in command of Dorian's business, expanding to New York, where he traveled frequently. His old arrangement with the Beedhams had ended, but Jonathan and Brianna were still together, if not unconventionally so. Rita had remarried. Her new husband, John, was Swash's sports buddy, and over time, Rita had become my best friend, especially after organizing the most beautiful wedding I could have imagined. Even Emmett was impressed. I remembered how much she cried at the end. It had been perfect. Hey, Swash's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. I looked up. He stood in the doorway of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist, still damp from the shower. He looked fit, lean and strong. He always said it was because he loved the way I looked at him and never wanted that look to fade. I joined his fitness plan too, and while I'd never match his height, we were nearly the same build now. Want to shower? He asked. Showering together had become something special between us. It was one of our most intimate rituals, full of shared jokes, gentle touches, and quiet laughter. The scent of our favorite soaps mixed with the warmth of the water made it feel like a kind of reset button for our connection. And yes, sometimes it led to more. He raised an eyebrow and gestured playfully at me. I laughed, standing up and stepping out of my clothes. I opened my mouth, about to say something cheeky, but he cut me off with a mock stern look. Don't even think about using that word. We're keeping it PG in this house. Yes, dear, I said with a smirk. Come here. I walked over to him. He kissed me, firmly, confidently. The kind of kiss that made the rest of the world disappear. He pulled back and looked me in the eyes. I couldn't help myself. I grinned, leaned in close, and whispered, "Darn." We both burst out laughing. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.